Now, as we mentioned earlier in the newscast, Fuji Heavy Industries did consider expanding other plants to add the Impreza production line.
Professor Tom Brush of Purdue's Krannert School of Management just taught a course on challenges in U.S. manufacturing and is here to discuss SIA's decision and how it fits into corporate strategy. Professor Brush, thank you for joining us this afternoon. Let's talk about that. Fuji Heavy Industries considered going to Mexico, but instead decided to expand here in Lafayette. Why do you think that was?
Well, probably first of all, the issue between building a new plant and expanding one that's in place is a kind of an easy one, favoring expansion. You have a lot of things going for it already. Suppliers are all set up. If there's room to expand, that's a big advantage. But it's possible. Expanding in a new plant, there are a lot of attractions to going to Mexico. A lot of the assembly firms have set up new plants in Mexico. A lot of Japanese firms. Nissan has several plants down there. So there's some advantages of serving the North American market from Mexico as well. Some of the big reasons seem to be the Mexican government is often willing to give a lot of incentives. There's also some training grants that they offer, internships and so on, that make the decision to build a new plant, which is a fairly prohibitive one, more attractive for firms to do that.
Yeah, dig a little bit deeper. Obviously, you weren't at the table when Fuji was trying to decide where to go, Indiana or to Mexico. I think a lot of us believe that the wages are low in Mexico and they suffer a lack of environmental regulations, and therefore it's much easier to establish down there. What are the pros and cons between, let's take a Mexico plant and what they're going to be dealing with here in Indiana and kind of weigh those out a little bit? Yeah,
I mean, those factors are important, but I think they're not as important as we tend to think of them as being. You think about the total costs of assembly. People say maybe labor 10%. The differential could be less than that, but largely the wage is a lot lower, but there's many other factors and costs involved as well. So.
You've looked a little bit today at Indiana's auto manufacturing footprint. I would have to imagine that the addition of 900 jobs significantly increases that. Where do you think Indiana is now in terms of, say, a Michigan that traditionally is, considered the automaker for the world?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's a lot of attractions for OEMs putting plants in Indiana. The labor force, particularly these plants, have a labor force that's willing to work well with them. UAW isn't as strong in these, at least the transplants, which the large ones now are the Honda plant and the Toyota plant. And this plant will be about the same size as the Toyota plant in Princeton.
All right.
With this expansion.
Professor Tom Brush, thanks so much for spending some time with us. Put this into perspective. Appreciate you taking the time.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Very interesting. A very nice day today.